People who disagree with everything you say are not always reacting to your words. Most of the time, they are reacting to how your words make them feel. This is something psychology explains very clearly, but most people never notice it while it's happening. When someone disagrees with you again and again, even on small things, it's rarely about logic. It's about identity. Agreeing with you would mean accepting that someone else might be right, confident, or emotionally stable. And for some people, that feels threatening. Psychologically, disagreement can act as a shield. It protects the ego. When a person feels insecure, unheard, or undervalued in their own life, their brain looks for ways to regain control. One of the easiest ways to feel powerful is to oppose someone else. Not because the other person is wrong, but because opposition creates the illusion of strength. Some people grew up in environments where being right was the only way to be noticed. Others were ignored, talked over, or made to feel small. Over time, their mind learns one rule: never fully agree, because agreement feels like losing ground. That belief becomes automatic. They don't pause to think, they react. This is why these people often interrupt, correct, or challenge you before you even finish your sentence. Their brain isn't listening to understand, it's listening to respond. In psychology, this is a defensive response, not an intellectual one. Another reason constant disagreement happens is comparison. When you speak calmly, clearly, or confidently, it highlights what the other person feels they lack. Instead of reflecting inward, the mind pushes outward. Disagreement becomes a way to reduce that internal discomfort. If they can invalidate your point, they don't have to face their own uncertainty. You might notice that these people don't argue the same way with everyone. They usually pick people who seem emotionally balanced or mentally strong. That's not random. Confidence, even quiet confidence, can trigger insecurity in others. And insecurity doesn't always show up as silence. Sometimes it shows up as constant resistance. There's also a pattern where disagreement becomes part of someone's personality. They begin to associate being different with being smart. So they oppose ideas just to feel unique or superior. Even when they don't fully believe what they're saying, the act of disagreeing gives them a temporary sense of control. What's important to understand is this: these people are not trying to reach truth. They are trying to protect themselves. Their mind is focused on survival, not connection. That's why reasoning with them often feels exhausting. The more you explain, the more they resist, because explanation feels like pressure, and pressure triggers more defense. Psychology shows that when the ego feels attacked, even unintentionally, it tightens. The person becomes less open, more rigid, more reactive. This is why calm discussions suddenly turn into debates, and debates turn into power struggles. And here's the part most people miss. The disagreement isn't really with you. You're just the mirror in front of them at that moment. What they're actually feeding is an internal feeling they don't know how to sit with. This behavior follows a pattern, and once you recognize it, everything starts to make sense. But understanding why they do it is only the first layer. What really matters is what happens. Once you understand why some people disagree with everything you say, the next question becomes more important. How do you deal with them without losing your energy, confidence, or peace of mind? Psychology suggests that the biggest mistake people make is trying to win these conversations. When you argue harder, explain more, or defend yourself repeatedly, you unknowingly feed the very behavior you want to stop. To someone who thrives on disagreement, your reaction feels like validation. It tells them they still have control. The most effective response is not more words, but less emotional involvement. Calm, grounded responses interrupt their pattern. When they realize they can't provoke a reaction, the disagreement loses its power. Silence, short acknowledgement, or neutral responses often say more than long explanations ever could. Another important strategy is boundaries. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every challenge deserves a response. Psychology shows that emotionally intelligent people choose where to invest their attention. When you stop explaining yourself to people who never intend to understand, you regain authority without raising your voice. You may also notice something interesting over time. When you stop engaging in unnecessary debates, and these people either change their behavior or distance themselves. Both outcomes are a form of clarity. Because when someone can no longer control you through disagreement, they are forced to confront themselves. It's also important to remember that agreement is not a requirement for respect. Mature minds can disagree without trying to dominate. When someone consistently turns every conversation into opposition, it reflects emotional immaturity, not strength. Real confidence doesn't need constant resistance to exist. Psychologically healthy communication is flexible. It listens, it reflects. It doesn't panic at the idea of being wrong. So when you encounter someone who can't tolerate agreement, understand this. Their rigidity is a sign of inner tension, not intellectual superiority. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is internal. Stop taking their disagreement personally. The moment you realize that their reaction is about their internal world, not your value, the emotional charge disappears. You stay calm. You stay centered. And that calm becomes unsettling for someone who feeds on conflict. Over time, this awareness changes how you show up. You speak with clarity, not urgency. You respond with intention, not impulse. And you stop shrinking or over-explaining just to keep the peace. That's when conversations stop feeling like battles and start feeling like choices. In the end, people who disagree with everything aren't obstacles. They are indicators. They show you where emotional work hasn't been done, where insecurity hides behind argument, and where silence can be more powerful than speech. Once you see this pattern clearly, now you stop reacting and start leading the interaction. And that shift, quiet but strong, is where real psychological power begins. If this made you see people differently, if it helped you understand conversations you've struggled with, then take a moment to support this content. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more psychology-based insights that help you think deeper, stay grounded, and move smarter through life.